definitely not Ever, because even though Ever is all over the booth and the big part of their name, and of course what everyone knows about this team, that they went to international events under the brand of Ever.
They're just ESC.
We have been told to call them ESC. Crazy Blessed, Tempt, LokeN, and Key. So no Totoro today, of course, is available on the substitutes bench, but that means maybe we're going to see some more Key Bard, and at least that makes me happy.
Yeah, we have to see if these guys are going to be swapping things around should the first couple games not go their way. Longzhu have already made an alteration from their roster that we saw just a couple days ago. Will be Fury playing. Emperor had a really good game one, surprised Monte Cristo and I, and then we remembered everything bad about Emperor in those next two games that followed. So Fury will be starting for those guys. But these guys, ESC, seems like they have this pretty much locked down with Key and support, but do have that freedom and availability to throw in Totoro if Key just starts going a little too ham.
And the identity of Ever, I think, is still up in the air. The first series we saw them play, they got a win, they looked great, aggressive in the early game, controlled Dragon, and set the tone for what we thought was going to be the meta, but then they struggled in their next two series. So against Longzhu, a beatable team, I expect them to really put their best foot forward, whereas Longzhu Gaming, like you mentioned, finally the return of Fury. He played in the first series on the first day of Champions against Afrika, and then we haven't seen him since. Emperor had a good beginning, like you said, but fell away positionally. He's got caught out a lot in recent series. So I like bringing back Fury, but Fury to me has been one of the big disappointments of 2016. This guy was a star on Samsung when the org was struggling in 2015, but his time on Longzhu has been largely forgettable. He's still waiting to have that breakout performance, and he makes another re-debut, and at some point, he really has to justify the hype. Otherwise, maybe the hype was just a flash in the pan.
I mean, I think that the hype around this team was pretty much just a flash in the pan. Everybody saw that roster put together, 10-man roster, including, such players as Flame and Coco, and everyone's like, oh my god, this could be the best team in Korea. Started off a little bit, pretty strong, and then by the end just completely sizzled out. And now finding themselves as the weakest team in the region.
Yep, 7th versus 10th. They put in a good Game 1 performance against KT Rolster when they got the win. The win they got 2 days ago in CJ, that was a 60-minute game. It was a bit of a clown fiesta, let me tell you.
It was really rough.
There wasn't really like anything to hang your hat. You're not like, oh yes, we won. It was just kind of like, well, we got the victory that game.
Yeah.
But recent trends have been unfortunate for both teams. We've mentioned it already. Ever has lost 4 out of their last 5. And Longzhu has picked up a couple of game wins, but obviously the season has been very forgettable.
Yeah, their one game win in their last 2 sets, but getting 2-0 by Afrika and Jin Air. So Jin Air, I mean, that one's reasonable. They look really strong. Afrika's also been kind of faltering here and there. Losing to KT, fairly understandable. But the CJ one, we weren't sure what was going to happen in that match because it was such, as you mentioned, a clown fiesta going into it, even on paper, and then it very much evolved into one as the games in that set continued through the night.
CJ played pretty well in Game 3, but the other 2 were very forgettable.
Yeah, Game 3 was really good by CJ. If they could maintain that upswing, that would be really nice for them in their future, but I'm not going to put any money on that.
I mean, maintenance for these mid-level teams, because honestly, 4 through 10 is actually very nebulous. Longzhu looking like the weakest team, but with a roster that kind of suggests better. Other teams overperforming. Jin Air famously, the roster doesn't look that exciting, but played really well, so we're really waiting for the mid-table to settle, and does Ever qualify as one of those mid-table teams, or will they fall back towards the level where MVP kind of find themselves right now? These are the questions we don't know the answer to.
Yeah, MVP, though, in their own regard, have been looking strong in their games. They've just kind of, at some points, gotten cheesed out of
Hongdu Monster had a lot of good games, but didn't win a lot of them, Achilles.
That's
that is kind of the struggle. As we look at the featured matchup between the junglers, big thing for Ever is just the damage distribution's been super interesting. Basically, Tempt is putting out all the damage, and everyone else is kind of similar. So that actually means that Bless has the most damage from the jungle at 20%. He has that Kha'Zix game, but otherwise it's been very meta stuff for him.
Yeah.
And it's just a very flat distribution outside of Tempt, and specifically on that Varus, putting out a lot of damage.
Yeah, Chaser gotten his hands on the Nidalee a couple times now, but still not having any star-studded performances. We'll have to see what he can grab up for himself this time around, but it's just interesting to see that the only swap that we're seeing from the side of Longzhu is going to be Emperor out for Fury in, which obviously was definitely the most needed one, but they still do have that 7-man roster since they cut down from last split, and we've just not seen Crash come in.
Yeah, Crash is actually second in solo queue right now, a dynamic queue as you might call it, so we're waiting for him. We want to see Crash. It's true, solo queue is dead, but calling it dynamic queue just, I don't know, I feel a bit dirty.
It doesn't feel right. Nothing about Dynamic Q feels right.
That's true.
And now you got autofill.
I mean, at some point, we're just causing Twitch chat riots talking about this.
Yeah, it's
not the good type of riot, the bad type of riot.
Is there a good type of riot?
I mean, sometimes.
I'm kidding. But, yeah, Longzhu, I don't even know. I don't even know who you could say is the best player on that team right now because everybody looks so, I suppose, but everybody looks so equally not good.
So there's been a couple of headset problems. I think it was Chaser had a headset problem, so it's been delayed a little bit, guys.
Let's get that swapped out, get him a new one, and
shouldn't be a big
ship him on his way.
Shouldn't be a big delay, but yeah, Longzhu just. That's the thing. It's like Pure has played pretty good, but been largely forgettable.
Yeah.
Everyone else is disappointed. Coco had a really good Azir game, so that was fun.
A really good Azir game.
It's
not something that we ever expected to say. We thought you could just be like, oh yeah, Coco's Azir, and just leave it at that.
And that's the thing is that
and now you
Chase has gotten Nidalee a few times. Coco played a good Azir game. He played another Jace game. These old pocket picks that used to be the big sign for CJ or Jinner, that they go off and have a big carry performance, haven't been counting for a lot.
Yeah, especially the Jace was also pretty underwhelming. I mean, I love Jace, but not like that, man. You got to do him some justice. But I mean, hopefully we can see him come back in a little bit here. I'm always pushing for Jace to make a return, but it seems pretty unlikely. Maybe with 6'11" coming in and Azir being dropped down, maybe we'll see Jace come in somehow. I don't know.
At some point, it feels like we're writing fan fiction for some of these teams because you're always looking for narratives when you're casting, and with Longzhu, it's like, look at this roster. Something has to happen eventually. It must be coming, but at some point, you have to call a bad team a bad team.
Yeah. If there is a fan fiction out there, though, for Longzhu, it's probably Coco and Jace.
There's probably some more dodgy fan fictions out there, too.
And Coco brushed his hands through Jace. Soft, suave hair.
Calm down there, Kilios.
And Jace said, I'm going to take you to the skies tonight.
I was waiting to see which Jace line you would corrupt with that story. To the skies is a good one.
But here we go. Looks like headset problem fixed.
Lost Boys opened his book.
The book is open.
I hope it's a new book.
It's probably
the old book wasn't working out so well for Lost Boy.
It's a Necronomicon. He's actually making a deal with some undead spirits to try to find some.
This is the LCK. It's not a Necronomicon. It's a Long Panda Death Note. The Panda Note.
Okay. Well, he needs to be writing in pretty much every other team and their players' names into that
Just
Death
get
Note.
more general. Others.
Yeah.
Should be just there. Cross them out.
Everyone else. Have at it. But bans coming out here fast from the side of Ever. It's going to be Lucian, Azir, and Ryze taking off the board. Meanwhile, double jungle and a Trundle ban here from the side of Longzhu. And Vladimir, here we go. Let's kick things off right, Papa. It's going to be Vladimir lock-in forever.
And that means Swain's probably going to be a takeaway. Coco has been playing a lot of the Swain in Dynamic Q, and Sivir's taken away as well. So Fury on Sivir duty instantly. Fury much more known as he kind of oscillates between playing lane dominant and playing the less lane dominant champions, because he did play a really good Kog'Maw and Ashe back in the day. As Ashe was always one of my favorites, but going to be on the utility duty of the Sivir. And yeah, we're expecting Swain to be a mid lane pick, but Expession always been known to play those carries in the top lane, so a flex pick for Longzhu.
So now we'll see where Ever wants to go with their draft. You know, what 80 carries they're going to try to pick up for themselves here going into this.
You have to say that Sivir, as a takeaway from a Vlad team, is always a good thing. One of the things that Monty, of course, was tilting about was a lot of the
the Vlad
Sivir comps. Sorry, not the Vlad Sivir, the Vlad Swain comps.
The lack of the Sivir for that comp.
Where engage is something that's really hard to put off. Extra movement speed for the Vlad is always something you really want to look for. So whenever I see this Vlad drafted earlier, I'm always excited to see what's drafted around it, because we haven't really seen this comp that really plays around Vlad's strengths. Clearly, his build path and his numbers are very powerful at the moment. A sustained damage mage in a team fighting, sustained damage team fighting mage really fits the meta, which of course is prioritized around fighting for those early Drakes.
Yep.
And he scales so well with things like Infernal Drake. So I can understand reaching for the Vlad, but the 5-man comp, that's what I'm waiting to see.
Well, you mentioned Pure was the best member of Longzhu right now, so makes sense that they're going to save the last pick for him as they come into this one. So it looks like it will just be that Swain in the top lane. Lock in on the Viktor for Coco.
No, it's a Caitlyn lock-in for LokeN. Get it right.
Well, and it's also that. It's going over Longzhu stuff. But yeah, Caitlyn coming in here. We haven't seen Caitlyn in a little bit.
She's played quite a bit. She was played in yesterday's series. Her build path is what really holds her back. Basically,
Okay.
you need the Hurricane, but you want Infinity Edge as fast as possible. So 2-item expensive power spike makes her a lower priority than other AD carries like the Lucian, or carries that have other item builds like Ezreal, for example. And it's going to be Ekko was the last pick, so Engage
surprise.
is certainly not something that ESC does very well. And while it's not quite Swain Vladimir, it seems like it's going to be another struggle for initiation outside of Key, pulling off some heroics on the bar.
Yeah. I can't wait for 6.11 so we don't see this top Ekko spam anymore. Get those Trinity Force changes in here and maybe see some shake-ups with, Jax, Aurelia especially at the moment.
So support for last pick. They're considering the Braum. Obviously, Braum is really good against Bard in terms of being able to affect the Cosmic Binding, the Q, and cancel out the stuns coming through on a second target. Laning phase can be painful against Caitlyn Bard especially, though, so lane swart's going to be heavily prioritized by Longzhu. And they've gone for this balanced team fight comp that has a lot of merits, but both teams kind of have team fight comps. Both teams have pretty low initiation. Obviously, Sivir gives them options with the concussive blows especially, but initiation's not trivial. So I feel like whichever team takes the early advantage, and specifically whichever team controls Drakes better, should come out with a big lead early in this game.
Well, I think statistically right now that would put the ball in ESC's court. Longzhu have looked pretty bad at pretty much every stage of the game.
You say that, but their early game is so much stronger. The worst early game in Champions or in LCK right now is ESC Ever, who are 10th place at -1,000 at 15 minutes. Longzhu have always been good at the early game because, honestly, they're a bit of a dynamic queue lineup. They're 5 talented players playing together. Their mechanics are good. They farm well. It's just transitioning that into fulfilling the win conditions is something they have never been able to do under the Longzhu gaming banner.
Maybe a auto-filled team
Oh, boy.
from them.
How many times can you say autofill in one broadcast?
I don't know.
Kilios?
I got a bunch of Diamond 1s on my team. I'm a challenger. How did this happen?
Who do you want to point out as the Diamond 1s on this team? That's the question.
Pure is the challenger. So everybody else ranges from Diamond 3 to 1.
Let's see how Tempt does specifically on the Vladimir. It's a different pick from me. He played it in the past, and Crazy was known as a top lane Vladimir, so they've played around Vladimir before. ESC Ever come in heavy favorites, but let's see which ESC Ever it is, because the one from the first series didn't necessarily look the same in the next two.
Well, we'll find out as we get onto the Rift here. Game 1, ESC versus Longzhu coming your way. All right, well, the Longzhu fans are out
Fighting
here.
going on
Yeah,
here.
Key's already taking a lot of damage. He gets locked up. That's going to be the exhaust. He takes a very brief magical journey. They're not going to be able to finalize the kill, but that will be his flash down and heal out from LokeN. So overall, 1 invested summoner spell by Pure, getting 2 away from the bot lane of Ever. So nice pick up there for Longzhu. Good early pressure.
I didn't even know that there was terrain there that would allow a magical journey, but it was smart for him to skill that ability. Got out basically scot-free. If we do see a lane swap, things like flashes and specifically those early summoners aren't going to be punished. So Longzhu are now in an interesting spot where they would have heavily wanted a lane swap against Caitlyn Bard. Now, maybe you'd actually take 2v2 lanes, given you have a summoner advantage, which is only really relevant in 2v2.
Yep. It's going to be the Warlord's Bloodlust here for LokeN. Sometimes we do see the fervor of battle for Caitlyn, so you can just get those headshots up pretty quickly.
That's actually really interesting to me, specifically on Caitlyn.
Look at this.
We saw some innovative plays from Key on the Bard before.
Yeah, magical journey invade here. Not going to be able to take these away, I don't think. Actually, yeah, we'll get it with a Piltover Peacemaker. And they're just going to shove Chaser right out of the jungle and chunk him out. So, going to force him onto those potions. And then pitch in onto Expession.
Get some free autos and punish Expession for trying to push the lane. Not very many ways for Swain to do that at level 1 after he's already skilled the Decrepify.
Beatrice isn't that strong yet.
No.
It's going to take some time. But yeah, nice little cheeky play will delay that jungle take. And Key's not done yet. He knows Expession hasn't joined Chaser quite at the moment. So just trying to get some additional hits in here. Of course, he can't land those cosmic bindings as he did take the magical journey, so he's not going to be able to do a whole lot. Meanwhile, Pure waiting in the mid. It's like he might be in a bad spot, the flash and knock up, but he is going to go down. That's a first blood for Coco, so just sticking around way too long without a flash.
But that's a sort of punish that should come through. They knew that Key didn't have flash, and unfortunately for Key, someone who's impressed and captured so many imaginations with his innovative play on champions like Bard, this is kind of his MO. One of the reasons they played Totoro a lot in the back half of the Challenger season is that when Key pulls off the aggressive moves that look great, you're like, wow, look at Key. But this is what you forget, is that often he goes on these roaming missions, a la Ambition in previous seasons, gets caught and dies. Yep. So there's no safety when there's two members, Swain is showing on your screen, and you're closer to the Viktor's side of the map, which means that the mid lane is going to be able to respond first. He has Ghost as well to be there if he needed to use it, so thusly punished is Key.
We'll see what Longzhu does after taking this turret. Infernal Drake on the map. See if they want to go for an early start. This Chaser is down on that bottom side of the jungle as well. So getting the 8% increase would be quite nice. Coco's already going to be able to pick up a very early blue buff for himself. So more Death Ray spam.
It's worth knowing that he picked up the kill credit as well. It's going to be faster and faster towards that perfect hex score.
Both of these turrets should be going down at about the same time, so Key getting killed didn't give too much of a tempo advantage over to Longzhu as far as these lanes are concerned.
Early advantage for the struggling Longzhu is something they'll definitely take. Trades with that first blue from the Rek'Sai means that Vladimir is going to have a slightly more worrying early laning phase. Both mid laners going Ghost Flash.
Yep.
Is interesting to track.
It's going to be a while before Tempt can start getting a good amount of HP back. Chaser, though, going to get caught by that cocoon. Key's coming around the side, goes through the magical journey, has the damage to come out, but we'll just get that little additional kill credit there, and that's going to be another kill going over to ESC as Bless picks up one. So
Chaser.
Nice pressure, and Chaser just going a little too deep.
He got inspired by Key's early play and decided to go for his own suicide roam. Got taken out, so kill credit, and now buff refresh over to Bless. So much of the early game, so much, honestly, of Ever's victories has been in Tempt. So one of the interesting stats that I pulled is that Tempt is responsible for 31% of his team's damage. That's not the biggest in the league. Crown actually holds that particular title.
Yeah,
but
Crown is way up there.
You always think of Ever in terms of LokeN. LokeN is the player who carried this team through a lot of their international performances. LokeN, of course, carried this team, especially through their promotion series as well. We all remember that Sivir game.
Yeah, he had a wonderful performance.
But this season, LokeN's been playing a lot of Ashe, so he's actually at 21%. There's actually 10% almost between Tempt and LokeN. We already mentioned that Bless is around 20% as well. Crazy, Bless and LokeN are all around 20%, whereas Tempt has been the one dominating that damage chart, even though he actually gets less gold on average a game than LokeN. So LokeN's been playing the utility champions, playing them well, but Caitlyn is a bit of a chip for him, so I expect to see a bigger performance from LokeN this time out.
Yep. See, though, double tower swap's going to come through here as ESC goes into this bottom turret, but they were able to pick up the Infernal Drake for themselves, so they're going to be off to a pretty nice start, as the gold figures at the moment aren't going to matter for too much.
Infernal Drake means so much specifically for Vladimir, who of course gets the dual scaling with his passive. More ability power for him means more health, so there are a couple Infernal Drake stacks onto a Vladimir, even if he goes for a tank build, you know, expecting Proto build into Ryze and a fairly tanky build. All the dual scaling will mean happy times for Tempt, who's been, as we said, looked at to carry Ever so far.
Yeah, I think we've only really seen one Vladimir that didn't have the Proto belt, and I believe it was Kuro on the side of Rock's Tigers, and then Fry came and played it significantly better than Kuro did.
There's just so many different reasons that makes Proto Belt a good fit for Vladimir. The damage from the active does interact with his Hemo Plague, so it gets amplified. He has issues closing distance, another gap close is helpful.
Fell comes in, but Bless doesn't have much of anywhere to go, so not going to be able to get a cocoon in there. Rift Herald will go over to the side of Longzhu, and I believe Chaser picked up the buff.
But the build path, I think, is the one that doesn't get spoken of a lot. Vladimir doesn't need to build a revolver anymore, so Kindle Gem fits his item build well. Health and ability power double scale with Vladimir as well, so just given the health and AP stats, just in so many different ways, Proto Belt's a really nice pickup for Vlad.
Yep, oh well, Tempt gonna go in here for some good damage, goes into the Sanguine Pool, trying to slow him up. Heal Blink pops, and it will knock Coco down just below half HP.
Trying to push him out of lane. There was no kill pressure there. Again, only a Kindle gem, Vladimir.
Yeah. So just trying to get some damage in, but Coco still recuperating a little bit with that potion as it's getting ready to wear off. So it looks like he will be able to stick around at least for this wave as it crashes into the tower. He'll pick that one up for himself. So far, has the augment coming through with an amp tome, so has a little bit of extra damage in his pocket.
So one of the reasons why a lane swap actually worked out pretty well for Ever, as we didn't really touch on, is that, of course, Swain ended up being the top laner after they went for Viktor mid for Coco, and he needs to build Rod of Ages, he needs to hit timing, so when he's starved of gold in the early game, 11 CS behind his opponent, itemizing for that scaling item is just that much more punishing for Expession. So he's been well held as, Bless is going to actually meet Rek'Sai.
Yeah, but Chaser sees it. Hey, wait a minute, this red buff's already been started.
But look at the mid lane. Vlad has so much pressure. Coco has to back, so actually this is a free objective forever.
And Crazy was already pushed up to that tier 2 tower. As you said, he's been beating the hell out of Expession up top for a little bit of time here. So yeah, Chaser not going to be able to contest the red.
It feels like there's 2 VOD timers that ESC should jot down. 2 minutes when Key, with no pressure, pushes up and dies contesting an enemy buff, and then the 8-minute timer where Bless, it's the right time to counter jungle. You have massive pressure advantage in the mid lane, and it means that it's a free buff. So in the same game already, we see the best and worst of Ever, and that's what makes them fun. What makes them engaging is they have very obvious strengths, but also very demonstrable weaknesses as well.
Yeah. We'll have to keep our eye on LokeN here. As 2 members coming down, they're just going to find that pink ward, so he won't get caught out quite just yet. Going for the pickaxe Cull build, but Fury already coming out with the BF sword and the long sword. So going to have considerably more damage.
Just better back timings, I think, is the real story there. It's all dependent on waves crashing, trying to get your top laner advantages, so at the end of the day, it's not going to be a big issue. Maybe this will mean BF sword pickaxe into the Hurricane. I'd be very surprised to see anything other than a Zeal item finish first, irrespective of what the first buys are.
We've seen some really strange ones
Was it
lately.
Emperor that built Infinity Edge Rush?
Yep.
We're not going to see that again.
It was Infinity Edge. It was Infinity Edge with a recurve bow.
Although on 6.12 they are kind of changing the AD items again, so that's a few patches away, but I think we may actually one day see the return of early IE.
Yeah, we gotta get through 6-11 first. Bless is gonna take away that Krug. Chaser comes in, flashes on top of him for the knockup. Bless gonna flash to answer. Coco uses the Ghost. He's trying to get in range of that gravity kill. Flashes in. That's gonna be the Chaos Storm, and he's gonna go down. Chaser claiming the kill. Crazy gets that parallel convergence shield and has to flash out, and that will keep him alive. But another kill going over Longzhu. So good job capitalizing on that forward pressure that ESC was trying to put down in the jungle.
3 kills in a game, 3 kills related to jungle invades. Bless got really greedy to finish off the Krug and then was overextended. There had been a missing call by Tempt as 2 roam top and well punished by Longzhu. So once again, it's only been the aggression of the junglers and I guess also the support at level 1 that have contributed to the kill score and well punished by both sides.
Yeah, that is flash down for Chaser, which will stop him from being able to get those longer range knockups, and Coco had to use Flash and Ghost. So Bless, knowing that, could pay a visit to the mid lane and try to create more pressure here for Tempt, who currently has both of his summoners.
And you come to team fight phase, and if Ever can keep up the Dragons, then definitely they can kite back. Both these teams so much better at kiting back than going in, and against Sivir and now a Viktor with Ghost, you wonder how is Tempt ever going to close the distance to actually get his Hemoplague on multiple members. But the Ryze slow is not going to be enough to keep them in place. The Proto Belt is probably still coming, even though you look at the item build and you're like, okay, he's rushing a Spirit Bridge.
Yeah, switching some things up here. I would like to see that item come through, though.
Ryze, I think, very, very important as well.
Yes. Yes, it will be. And we need to see where Expession is going to go with this as well, because we've seen some different Swain builds out there. Some people prioritize getting the Zonias early so they can just sit in the thick of the fight and, you know, just recuperate HP. But so far, just going to be the Rod of Ages completed here, just about 40 seconds ago.
LokeN's pretty overextended.
Yes, he is. Still gets hit by the Q, but they're not going to push in for any more.
See ESC Ever get greedy for farm and push in when they don't have pressure. Key was almost in mid lane, and LokeN was far too far up bot, but won't be punished for it just this time.
Well, he's still trying to apply some good pressure. We can see Bless going to find Chaser on the exit, so he could rotate down. Needs to wait for Chaser to get out of range so they can't see the tremor sense.
We tell a lie, of course. Hextech Revolver does fit in that build path as well.
Yep.
Most certainly going to be the Proto Belt.
It looks like Cloud Drake is the second one to have spawned. So I'm sure that's going to sit there for a considerable amount of time unless they just have open pressure and nothing else to do.
I mean, there's two schools of thought, right? Maybe they just want to wipe it off the map to get a better one.
Yeah, exactly.
6 minutes time.
And that's when you just get nothing but Cloud Drakes from there on out. It's like, damn it, I can't get rid of these.
I think Monty and Doe call it the Clown Drake.
Clown Drake.
Doesn't feel like that.
It's pretty fitting.
Frown Drake would also fit in pretty well.
I'm sure you saw the little test that the EU casters did, where if you run from bot lane to mid, out of combat with Cloud Drake, you arrive half a second faster.
Well, that's great.
That's just awesome.
Who needs 8% more AD and AP? I can get there half
Not
a second
me.
faster.
I'm just a little bit faster than you. Oh, bless. Bless your little heart. Oh, wow, TP's coming out. Going to be matched by the side of ESC, but LokeN's going to get jumped on here by Expession. Still has the never move, but it's not going to connect. And now suddenly Crazy, way too far forward. Going to have to use the ultimate right off the bat. Bard ulti comes through, finds Coco. But it looks like ESC are just getting run over by the damage right now. The Chaos Storm just ticking away onto this Ekko Tempt.
Huge Hemo play.
Yeah, Hemo play goes down onto 4 members, but it's the damage there. It doesn't look like it. Sanguine Pool has been used. The never move not going to connect onto Tempt. He's trying to fire back more damage, but ESC just cannot find it. LokeN having to back out of there, getting too low. And that's just going to be a kill picked up here for Longzhu, pulling the trigger a little bit faster.
And that was the story. Longzhu rotated bot so much faster. Coco popped the ghost early. Just look at where they are on the minimap. Viktor's already basically in bot lane when Vladimir first reacts. So honestly, this is on Tempt being slow on the rotation. At this point, Swain has already DPS'd out LokeN, so he doesn't really contribute anything outside of his ultimate. There's been no auto attacks at any point. And Tempt gets in there with a 4-man Hemo play. If he had rotated earlier, this fight would have gone completely differently. But in the end, the ult just serves to dissuade Longzhu from pushing for any more kills.
Yeah, if he could have gotten in there before the Bard ultimate expired, he could have turned that one around potentially.
Is the Proto Belt completed for Vladimir?
So now he can burn the Proto Belt to get to bot faster.
He actually just burned it to wave clear in mid, so.
It's a 40-second cooldown. Don't have to be too selective with that one. You can see Longzhu are going to start up and just take this Cloud Drake. No one really wants to contest that. It's not worth it from the side of ESC. We'll see what's going to spawn next. And it's going to be another Infernal. All right. Keeping things interesting.
An interesting item when we do see the fight for the Infernal Drake is to note that Bless has gone for Nidalee Large Rod, clearly going to be prioritizing Ryze as his second item, and Aegis by Chaser is completed. Both teams are running pretty AP-heavy lineups. Swain, Viktor against Ekko, Elise, Vladimir. So Aegis is definitely a must-need purchase for both. And with a support like Bard, whose positioning is a bit different, and of course just being the nature of support, the Aegis will be a lot later and less optimal if it's on the Bard, and Bless is already going towards an AP item, so it might actually be difficult to team fight forever in the early game until they have that Aegis completion. So for a lineup that very much wants to fight for those Infernal Drakes, for a team that we already mentioned has low initiation, so the pressure of their early game, the pressure of picking up Drakes, is what actually lets them fight in the late game around objectives. Going for the AP purchase instead of what has now become pretty standard. The finishing the Aegis into the Banner of Command has kind of been the go-to for most Elise players. Probably going to be pretty heavily punished in this game.
Now we can see Expession. He's going to be able to turn things around up in that top side.
Well, LokeN decided to change the book. He is going to get Infinity Edge first.
Yeah, i.e. first build.
That was maybe a gold value thing, but there's not a lot of power in this first item at all, especially compared to both Sivir's kit and the Essence Reaver that she's completed.
Also went for the Berserker Greaves as opposed to the Boots of Swiftness, so he's going to have to be really cautious about his positioning. As
I guess no one ever wants to do damage in a fight because they're just never going to be in range to do damage.
Yeah. I mean, Berserker Greaves in 6.11 are getting a nice buff, 5% increased attack speed to bring them to, I think, 35%.
Yes, you're correct.
So that'll be nice, but for the time being, I would think that the Boots of Swiftness would be that much more valuable for him, especially with Coco having the ghosts with the Chaos Storm. They can just continually chase onto him.
I just feel like if you're going to have carries build this way in this team comp, Ever desperately needs the Aegis to at least take the fights that Longzhu are going to opt into, because they can't opt into any fights of their own.
It could be starting right now, as Key does have that Null Magic Mantle in his inventory.
Take a while from support.
Yeah, gonna be a bit of a rough patch here for ESC as they get ready to move into this mid-game. So far, Longzhu not making any critical mistakes, only giving up that 1 kill. Currently find themselves with just over 1,000 gold in the lead. And now, oh, nice use of the Proto Belt, getting out of the gravity field. Chaser gonna get caught in the jungle here. Nice Bard stun as well. He gets exhausted, he goes through the tunnel, and that's gonna be pure blocking with the Unbreakable. He will get caught by the Bard ultimate, and here comes Tempt trying to get him, and he will just flash away to safety. And no one from Longzhu will go down.
And Tempt invested the Ghost as well for no gain. It's worth noting that despite the fact that Chase has been almost exclusively in the bot side, teleport coming in.
Yeah, teleport coming in, as well as a Void Rush from the side of Chaser. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to find anything. Bing's coming on to LokeN, but he's still just a little too elusive. So they will get out of there. So that's going to be a TP down from both sides.
No gain though. Crazy, of course, had to channel the TP just to have the option to cancel it. If he had not channeled it, then could have been some kills there.
Yeah, well, it looks like Longzhu are going to be able to transfer this pressure into the mid side and work down this tower. Can't quite take it just yet, but they get some really critical damage in.
Just wanted to note that Crazy had missed out on a lot of CS. He was 30 behind before he picked up an extra wave. So even though Chaser hadn't been applying pressure in the top side, the flow-on effect of Longzhu having a strong couple of minutes has denied CS away from specifically the Ekko.
Oh, Tempt going in with the Proto Belt, gets out a good bit of damage onto Coco. He's just going to have to try to finish this one out, goes into the Sanguine Pool to deny that damage from the Chaos Storm. Takes it pretty low with the Hemo Plague, but still just not going to be enough to find a kill.
It's worth knowing that Expession is scaling up. He did get the Rod of Ages at 11 minutes, so despite the lane swap, was able to find enough farm to pick it up.
Yeah.
So good job by him.
Well, he started taking a lead. Now we can see it's really growing for him. 122 to 96 at the moment, so he's going to be sitting pretty well at the moment compared to Crazy, who doesn't even have assists.
Locker is completed onto the Rek'Sai as well. Really interested to track the next fight. Against a champion like Vladimir, obviously Locker is a very quick go-to, but sustained damage from the Swain and to a lesser extent the Viktor means that it's just as important for Ever. So we'll see how important that 10 extra magic resist to the whole team is, because you have to think that Ever is not going to be able to just give up something as powerful as the Infernal Drake. Spawns in just over a minute.
Yep. If they can get that second buff, that would definitely help them turn this match around. Getting 16% increased AD, even at the earlier stages of the game, is still pretty significant.
You know, we're at the point where there is 70-ish AD onto the Caitlyn.
Yeah.
Other stats being built, the AP on Vladimir. Again, the dual scaling on Vladimir is very, very powerful, so not optional for anyone.
LokeN and Emperor must just be friends or something, because they just share this build path. It's going to be the recurve bow instead of the Zeal coming out first.
I mean, it's the cheaper of the two options. Zeal's pretty pricey now at 1,300 gold, so
it's an 11 it in for recurve, something like that?
1,000 or 11, I forget. I believe it's 1,100. Gives you extra physical damage on auto, so does give you relevant stats.
Yeah.
But yeah, almost certainly a gold value thing.
Oh, he just throws that Cosmic Binding nowhere near anybody on the setup.
Crazy will have teleport in basically 5 seconds time, so he will have teleport for the buff.
Yeah, if you just keep Expession busy and relegate it up to this top side, he can definitely make a play.
Trading pretty decently, but Expession is a level over.
He's also now has a needlessly large rod in his inventory, so the Spirit Visage not going to be doing too much here for Crazy, as Expession just keeps growing in power, almost has that Rod of Ages completed. Will be so in about 30 seconds or less.
I guess Ryze is going to be the next purchase, which
we've seen that a lot.
I mean, you got the Locket coming through from your jungler. You're against triple AP, so Zhonya's is not. It will be purchased, but it's not a rush item as it would be if there were more AD champions like Kindred on the side of Ever. And honestly,
there's not a whole lot of damage there so far.
Sivir's going to launch you in, and the Ryze will at least keep people in the fight. So even though they don't have great slows or stuns, they're trying to make up for that with Swain basically in the middle of the enemy team, keeping them around.
Yep. Looks like Longzhu with all of their members down on this bottom side. Expession went back to base. Walked over here. They're going to start up this Infernal Drake.
Not great wards here for Crazy. No deep wards behind. It's a very defensive teleport by Crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be the Bard ultimate here to try to buy some time as Crazy runs his way in. This might not going to come out here from Bless. Goes way too early. Has to repel up into the air. So Chaos Storm is just taking away their HP bars. LokeN going to get jumped on. Chaser finds the first kill. Tempt in the backside. Has to use the Proto Belt, but still gets locked up by the concussive flows. trying to run away, but it doesn't matter. There's just too much damage on the side of Longzhu, and they take him down. 2 for 0, plus Infernal Drake and a mid-turret. Longzhu are looking really good to start things off.
I mean, the setup for Ever was really desperately poor. I mentioned there were no obvious teleport wards for Ekko, and Ekko's not Maokai. He needs to be at team fights early to set up his CC, but in the end, he was completely irrelevant.
Wow.
Did nothing, and you already listed a couple of nice things that Longzhu got after off their 2 kills, and a Baron might be on the menu as well.
We'll just tack one onto the list here. Baron down to half HP. Crazy going to go in onto Fury, trying to rip some HP off of this bar, but it's not going to happen. Bless going to get stunned up by the concussive blows. Locked by Nevermove as well, and Expession finds the kill. Key has to retreat. They will deny the Baron take for now, but Longzhu are just starting to run away with this game.
It's a really good turn. Of course, we're early in the game. There isn't a lot of tank stats, so they were taking extreme damage from the Baron, and Bless was the same level as Chaser, so the Smite steal was very real. So it ends up just being 1 kill.
Take another look at this, though.
But look, Ekko's coming in late, which already is a problem, and is so far away from the fight. So they just DPS it down. They run in. Remember, this is a Sivir comp, so they're going to get onto Ever instantly. And Ekko's basically just still completely uninvolved in the fight. So Ever walks up, concussive blows applies. A kill is guaranteed. Nice flash by Fury to pick up the kill.
He smote it like 1100.
Again, more my issue is not about the small mechanical players, it's the setup from Ever. That was never going to be a successful contest. They didn't even commit to going for a 50-50 Dragon Steal, and then, of course, the Longzhu's team is going to collapse faster. They have the Sivir. So in multiple different ways, Ever weren't serious about taking the fight or the Dragon, so why not just back off, pick some CS, push up some waves, instead of half-heartedly coming and just passing over extra advantages to Longzhu.
Yeah. Even if it had come down to an attempted steal there from the side of that Baron attempt, I don't know if Plus would have been able to come out on top of it with smites like that. That was pretty bad. Very much off base.
So while Ever don't have the Aegis, as I've droned on and on about, they do have double Spirit Vision. They do have Aegis, now onto Bard. So finally they have the magic resist stats now, finally. It is very, very squishy, so even with a defensive item like Aegis, will die quickly.
Yep, Longzhu still just want to stick around this Baron. Draw ESC in.
Well, Crazy doesn't have teleport,
Try to blow
so he's on the bottom side of the map right now.
Yeah.
Tremor senses from Rek'Sai.
Oh, well, Chaser's going to go forward. Pier does find the winner's bite, but they can't follow up too much more. That's Glacial Fissure down here for the side of Longzhu, so maybe that will deter them from fighting much more.
Crazy's playing a super dangerous game. Look at him, he's going to show in bot lane. Longzhu can turn straight back onto the Baron, but first they're probably going to go for a safer objective. They take this turret, they'll be able to push Vision even deeper and then get those deep wards in, and that Baron bait's going to be even more straightforward for Longzhu.
Yeah, wave clear is there though from Tempt, using that E coming through to blow up the wave as it crashes into the turret, so not going to be able to get too much damage in, but Longzhu is still just going to stick right in this river and wait for ESC to come forward. Like you said, they have the Tremor Sense, so they can spot everybody without ward coverage deep into ESC's jungle and try to pull the trigger on something. Looks like Expession going to start to split down to the bottom side, create some pressure, maybe draw Crazy away, but he's going to have the teleport available this time around.
Yeah, Longzhu spotted that, as usual, Ever is smart about prepping their side minion waves. They were amazing at this for a challenger team, and they're still very much top half of the LCK when it comes to being able to prep minion waves. He's going to go answer that in the bottom side.
Oh, well, good. On the Chaser, he's going to go forward, pops up Bless, who goes through the magical journey, but there's just really nowhere to run. He gets the flash away. Will it take him to safety? Doesn't look like it is Expession. Throws Beatrice onto him, and Fury, actually with a boomerang blade over the wall, will take him down. Crazy has to flash away from the Gromp pit, and now Tempt on the backside only gets the Hemo Plague down onto Coco by the looks of it. Can't really get in for the fight. Fury going straight in underneath the tower, takes down 2 members with the help of Coco, and this is looking like a near ace as Tempt is the only member of ESC left alive, which is a surefire Baron take here from the side of Longzhu.
And Fury decides to show the aggression that's been absent from his play for a long time. We've seen this guy on the passive champions, the Jhin and others, but on the Sivir, he really gets in there. Turret dives to pick up the exit kills. Coco is the true MVP, which you'll see in the replay. Basically just walks up to LokeN and explodes him, cutting through the jungle, and now Longzhu will finally get the Baron they could have gotten a few minutes ago. And this team, with Fury back in the lineup, is looking good.
Looking really good. Longzhu playing a much different game than they've been playing for the last couple sets.
The aggression and the Sivir pick, reaching for Sivir. They haven't been playing Sivir this season. Bless gets so aggressive trying to clear wards and gets taken out, but watch Coco. He's on the backside, puts over a death ray, but you don't actually see him on your screen, but he walks up to Sivir, so he walks up to Caitlyn, just instant kills her because of the wards they had, having vision of that Caitlyn. Caitlyn does no damage in the fight, and then Fury decides to take a magical journey under the turret to get a couple of kills.
Yep.
He's fine.
Yeah, really nicely played there by Fury. And it seems like, you know, I'd say tempered aggression is looking like the way to win the game at the moment. This is something that CJ was lacking that they brought out in Game 3, especially against Longzhu just 2 days ago. And that really sealed the deal for them. And now Longzhu putting that into practice, finding a really fantastic start to this series as they approach 10,000 gold ahead.
They just seem to understand both their comp and the situation they are at in the game better than ever does. We talked about the itemization. They were well on top of it with things like the Locket very quickly. It's actually going to be double Locket probably, as you can see an Aegis in the inventory from Pure. We mentioned the fact that both these teams are team-fighting comps with poor engage, so Longzhu, after giving up a single dragon, were really aggressive. Tempt Fate comes through.
Yeah, it does land on the Pure and Coco. Can they capitalize, though? They're trying to get in. This Crazy comes in on the backside. The parallel convergence not going to connect. And now he takes a bunch of damage as he gets locked up in the gravity field. Has to use the ultimate. The Chaos Orb going through, and they chip him down. Coco finding the kill. Never move. Not going to connect on the Tempt as he does use a Sanguine Pull. He will be able to limp back to the fountain. But Crazy down. Baron empowered minions. This is Longzhu looking to break the inhibitor line here at before 30 minutes.
See Coco once again being able to zone LokeN away from doing any sort of wave clear. The wave clear is pretty much Caitlyn only.
Yeah.
Flash from Chaser.
Yeah, that's going to be the cocoon coming through into Coco. Can't find it. Chaser goes in pretty deep and takes a ton of damage from the turrets. Hero Plate comes down. It's just going to find Coco this time around. His Tempt is trying to fire back some damage. This inhibitor is going to fall, and Longzhu looking like they will be able to successfully disengage.
They don't get greedy for kills, even with the low health bars. They came here for a bot lane inhibitor. They take it comfortably. They can kite back towards a third Infernal Drake that spawned this game.
Yeah, to be the second one for either squad. And picking that up for Longzhu with as far ahead as they are would pretty much seal the deal. We can see Chaser already going to start this one up as Coco comes down to join him.
And although it is a solo, and a very slow solo from Chaser, we're going to see Coco come over. The speed doesn't matter. There's been no way for Ever to actually put down any wards anywhere near this particular objective. They've been basically on their inner turret line or more defensive for the past 10 minutes or so, and a good early game has actually for once been snowballed into a solid mid game. Longzhu's understood their comp. They've understood the fact that the enemy has a very similar team comp, and they've played it out just better than ESC Ever.
Yeah. If they can maintain this performance, it'd be a really easily won.
You can never look forward to either a future game, a future series, or even a week's play for Longzhu, so we'll hold our tongue on that.
I can keep my fingers crossed for their sake.
You can. It's good to be optimistic. It'd be great to see Longzhu as a playoff contender. It's just they flattered to deceive too many times.
But, you know, if they keep this up, they're just looking better than ever.
That works in two different ways.
It does.
As I think about it.
That was the joke.
Look at you.
Look at me.
Growing into your seat there, Achilles.
Chaser going to eat some damage as the rest of Longzhu take down that tier 2. Trap line coming out here from LokeN, just trying to dissuade them from pushing forward. See, Crazy did shove the super creep wave back a decent ways, almost midway up that lane. So
I gotta say, I don't know what the win rate is for first pick Vladimir, but seems to getting hit because teams just don't seem to know what to draft out around what is undeniably a very powerful mid lane.
I think his win rate overall right now is 40%. I don't know what it is first pick.
It's not going to go going up this game as far as we can see.
That it does not look like that will be the case. And Longzhu are just able to pressure out everywhere. Expession just keeping this wave pushing into this inhibitor turret. It's going to be answered by Tempt as the rest of Longzhu pressure is out in the mid. Crazy completely just stuck in that bottom side. Tier 2 goes down 7-2 in towers. And that brings him to a 10.3 thousand gold lead at the moment.
Really loving what Fury has brought, specifically vindicating a first round Sivir pick. You know, Team Sivir priorities has gone up and down recently despite no changes to the champion. Laning phase, of course, in a world where Caitlyn is a meta champion can be difficult, but Ever were the ones that initiated the lane swap after losing their flash specifically onto their support. Ever since getting through that laning phase, Sivir's done so much work this game.
Yeah, Fury has been doing a ton of damage in these fights. I'd love to see the damage to champions at the end of the game, so definitely going to be looking forward to that stat. And you can see Crazy just can't do a damn thing to Expession. 2-level advantage.
But ESC's comp could never do things. That's not the comp they have, Achilles. It's a comp that reacts well. It's a comp that team fights well. It's a comp that plays well from ahead. They just find themselves over 10,000 gold in the hole.
Yeah. And it starts spiraling out of control with that really early aggression from Key. Not having that flash available, should have known better, and he just got too into it. Ended up paying the ultimate price, and now ESC is looking pretty rough to kick things off in this set.
This is what people who followed the challenger scene last season would have seen, is that Key is very steadfast in over-aggression in the early game. He catches some teams off guard. He did it on the international stage, but then a team like TSM really seemed to have him well scouted when they played against Ever, despite the eventual result. So,
ooh, wow.
If you are a one-note aggressive player, and if you're a one-note player of any type, teams will eventually figure you out. And Key, recently at least, and specifically in this series, has been found out to some degree.
Yeah. That's why Faker's so successful. You can never figure out what's going on with that guy.
That man has all the notes. You could write a book about Faker, and yet you would still be, even if you read that book and every single trend he made, he'd still surprise you. I mean, the Anivia pick, everyone was wondering, okay, people are reaching for Vlad. What's good against Vlad? And specifically against Vlad Swain, the Anivia was just super smart for Faker.
Yep, Faker says this is... Though to give some credit, I believe, I'm pretty sure Froggen had played it earlier on in the day, so Faker wasn't the first one to bring out Anivia versus Vladimir. So credit where credit is due.
We can always give Froggen credit for Anivia.
Yeah, it's one of the things that
even if he hadn't, we could have for. But it's worth knowing that Froggen plays Anivia, and everyone will be like, "Yep, that's right." Solid color point there.
Yeah, I remember when I was just starting to try to play ranked in League of Legends, and I heard about Froggen for the first time, and they're like, "Oh, he had like 2,000 elo playing only Anivia." I was like, maybe I should play only Anivia.
How'd that go for you, Achilles?
Oh, I just actually didn't play her at all.
Oh.
I thought about it, and then I realized, like, no, not really. I was more of a top laner at the time.
Top lane Anivia. Make it a thing, Achilles.
I'll get right to it. I'm sure that the Korean solo queue players will, dynamic queue players will love me.
To be fair, Korean solo queue is very different from NA, and that they'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but if you die once, they are mad.
You die once and your mom equals boom.
Your mom does indeed seem to go boom.
That's going to be on the hunt pop. TP
nice
coming on the backside from Expession, finds LokeN and Tempt. LokeN already down to about half HP. The Never Move locks him in, and Chaser comes in, finishes him off with relative ease. Bard ultimate going to stop and lock up 3 members of Longzhu, but it doesn't even matter because the onslaught continues, and Expession is just not losing any HP right now in this fight, pushing forward. Key has to flash away crazy with that E. Going to be able to get out of range. It's only miraculously LokeN that dies, but that's still so much pressure opened up on the map here for Longzhu.
And that's the most fearsome Swain teleport flank I've ever seen, but the second item, Ryze, really vindicates it. Gets the Never Move onto a couple, kills LokeN basically himself. It's been Coco and Expession exploding LokeN at every team fight despite Caitlyn's range. Really nice teleport ward available. Everything Longzhu's done well. Ever has really been poor at. That's why Longzhu find themselves taking down another inhibitor, 2 down, and whenever they want, they can go and take Baron as well.
Or the Elder Dragon spawning in 10 seconds right now. Get that additional buff and push them up to 24% extra AD AP. 24,000 would be pretty ridiculous.
You're right. 24,000 extra AP would be a whole hell of a lot of extra AP. Don't think Viktor needs too much extra. Swain already, even with the more tanky build, doing plenty of damage. This is nice from ESC Ever. They know that the Drake is spawning and it's always the safer objective, so they're saying, all right, we're going to come force your hand, and they shouldn't be in a position where they can force Longzhu to do anything. They're so far behind that Longzhu should be calling all the shots, but at least going and clearing vision puts some doubt into the mind of Longzhu.
Yeah. Chaser just continuing and advancing that push of the minions down on the bottom side, has Void Rush available, of course, so he can get to pretty much anywhere in a moment's notice. Actually, well, he's got a couple tunnels around the Baron Pit, so he would be fine to arrive there.
And that's not really a bait ESC should buy, because this isn't the same item build from Rek'Sai that we've seen recently. Specifically, there's no Titanic Hydra, there's no Ravenous Hydra. The pushing is super, super slow.
We've been seeing
on the Rek'Sai.
We've been seeing this build a lot, especially with a Sightstone in tow ever since Banking came back. So more people have been picking up on this more utility-focused Rek'Sai build rather than
Rek'Sai was always built as a full tank. That's why I was surprised to see things like the Titanic Hydra. I mean, all I'm saying is that if you take the Titanic Hydra, by all means, Rek'Sai can pick up CS and either split push defensively or aggressively. But if you see this build, you shouldn't worry about being split pushed by Chaser.
Very true. I mean, we've seen some odd augments, I guess we could call it, for Rek'Sai through the years. Black Cleaver was one that we saw for a while.
So yeah, a nice stat onto the Rek'Sai, and Baron buff's nice for anyone, but it's only going to be for Longzhu this game at least.
Baron buff plus Elder Dragon. That's going to be pretty damn good.
392 AD on Sivir,
Oh
who
my
has
God.
only a BF Sword, Essence Reaver, and the AD from the Mortal Reminder, so not exactly a mountain of AD in the inventory.
Yeah. With the BF Sword coming in there for the Mercurial Scimitar. I always have trouble with that one.
You got there. That's all
Got
that
there
matters.
eventually. It took 3 steps, but we got it. But yeah, having that item completed, all of that AD plus the lifesteal, he's just not going to go down.
Wave clear and poke is decent. They have good range on the side of ESC Ever, but this feels like Longzhu are waiting for the go button. Expession doesn't have teleport, although
Well,
of course teleport flanks in the base, tricky to pull off.
Go button's going to be timed off of these waves crashing in the mid and bot side.
You mentioned the word time, and it's worth noting that of course the time for both buffs is pretty small, so
there
they're
we
going to try
go.
and make use of them.
Yeah, On the Hunt goes out. Chaser pushes in. Not going to be able to find much of a target here.
Bye,
LokeN
LokeN.
just going to get ticked away by that Chaos Storm. He goes down and out. He going to be made very short work of as well. Can't even use the Tempered Fate. Tempt and Crazy trying to retreat. Bless just barely makes it to the Fountain Steps, but still goes down. Crazy snaps back, but there's just nowhere to go, so he's going to fall. All in all, it's Tempt all on his lonesome, running out the bot side. And the rest of this base is going to crumble under the pressure of the remaining members of Longzhu. So 39 minutes just about. Longzhu Gaming come out swinging 16-1. And they take down ESC.
4 fights in a row. Somebody runs at LokeN and he dies. Caitlyn needs some sort of a front line, but it wasn't Ekko, and it certainly wasn't the Ryze Elise this game. Vladimir was kind of playing his own game on the side of team fights, and Longzhu basically dispatch Ever in very simple fashion. 2 similar comps, but Longzhu knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to fight early. They built the Aegis. They played around Dragon. Ever kind of just really didn't seem to commit